I know this probably sounds pathetic, but I'm not even sure I should be writing this. I've deleted it 3 times already, and it still feels wrong. Maybe because saying it out loud, even to strangers on the internet, makes it real. My name's Chester. Yeah, laugh it up. No one's been named Chester since rotary phones were still a thing. But my parents were old school, and I guess in some way so am I. I'm 41. I fix broken vending machines for a living. My hands always smell faintly like Dr. Pepper syrup and WD-40. I used to think my wife, Loren, liked that about me. She's 37. She works in HR, not the cold, corporate, fire everyone kind. She runs employee wellness stuff for a regional chain of hardware stores. She's sweet, smart. At least she used to be sweet. She still looks the same. Same blue eyes, same laugh. But something's missing. Something warm that used to be in the room when we were alone. And maybe I should have said something sooner. Maybe I should have shouted, but I didn't. I just kept noticing and quietly hurting. It started with a smoothie. Yeah, a stupid smoothie. She came home one night with 2. One for her and one for a coworker who didn't show. She said I could have it. Strawberry mango. She hates strawberry mango. Always said it tastes like cough syrup and soap. I asked, "Since when do you buy flavors you don't like?" She blinked, just for a second, and then smiled and said, "Oh, I thought it was pineapple." She never forgets a flavor. She tracks carbs like a hawk. She once argued with a waiter over the sugar content in salad dressing. But I let it go. That's the thing about being the quiet guy. People think quiet means clueless. It doesn't. It just means you watch more than you speak. Weeks passed. Her phone started buzzing at weird hours. She never used to guard it. Now it's glued to her. Face down. Always face down. I told her one evening while we were folding laundry, "If something's going on, I'd rather hear it from you now than find out later in a way that burns." She laughed like I just accused her of robbing a bank. Said I was paranoid. Said I needed to work on my self-esteem. Maybe I do. But 3 nights later, she went out for drinks with coworkers and came back with her sweater inside out. I asked her about it. She said it must have gotten twisted in the Uber. She hates Ubers. She calls them rolling petri dishes. So I asked her who she rode with. She hesitated, just a flicker of a pause. Then she said, "Tina, you don't know her. She's new." I warned her again. I told her I wasn't accusing her. I was begging her not to turn whatever this was into a slow-motion train wreck. I told her that some things don't heal once they're broken, that I would walk away even if I loved her, if she made me feel like a fool one more time. She just looked at me. No apology, no anger, just disappointment. Like I was embarrassing her. And I guess that was the moment I realized something. She didn't think I'd do anything. She thought I'd keep fixing vending machines, keep smiling through dinner, keep washing her favorite wine glass, and keep sleeping next to a ghost of a woman I used to know. But she had no idea what was coming. I didn't either, to be honest. But it started the moment she ignored that second warning, the moment she thought she was smarter than the man who'd memorized the rhythm of her lies. After that night, things got colder. And I'm not just talking about the weather. Laureen and I had always had this quiet rhythm to our relationship. We weren't loud people. We didn't fight. We didn't yell across rooms or storm out in dramatic scenes like you see on TV. We used to joke that we were boring in the best way. But now it was like being roommates with someone who forgot they ever loved you. She stopped asking about my day, stopped touching me altogether. She'd fall asleep with her back to me, sometimes whispering to someone on her phone in the bathroom late at night, telling them to hold on and, "I'll text you when I can." I didn't need to guess. I just needed to wait. Then one evening, something finally cracked. It was a Tuesday. She came home around 7 p.m., said she'd stayed late finalizing a hiring packet with her team lead, and flopped on the couch like she was exhausted. I said nothing. I just handed her the plate of food I made. Grilled chicken and broccoli, the way she likes it when she's watching her macros. She barely touched it. I sat across from her, pretending to scroll my phone, but I was watching. Not her face, her hands. She kept picking up her phone and setting it down, tapping the screen and locking it again. Then she got up to go to the bathroom, and her phone slipped off her lap and clattered to the hardwood floor. The screen lit up. She didn't hear it fall. The door had already shut. I leaned over, expecting just a wallpaper or a weather notification. Instead, a message popped up on the screen. "I miss you already. You smell like cinnamon and bad ideas." Smirking face, no name, just a number. And below that, a photo preview. Not explicit, but enough. Her legs, bare feet on someone's dashboard. A watch I didn't recognize resting on the console. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't need to. My heart already remembered every pixel. I placed her phone back where it was, exactly how it fell. She came out of the bathroom, hair damp, looked at me, and smiled like nothing had changed. I asked, "Is cinnamon a new perfume you're trying?" She froze. It was maybe a second, two at most, but her whole face changed. She laughed and said, "Huh? What are you talking about?" I shrugged. "Nothing. Just smelled it earlier when you walked past." That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I took off work and drove to a location I never thought I'd enter. The parking lot of her office. I waited for 3 hours, saw her walk out in that same pale green dress, the one with the gold zipper that always rides up a little in the back. She used to wear it for our anniversaries. Now it was her Tuesday outfit. And then I saw him, the guy in the silver Honda Accord, tall, maybe 40, red flannel shirt, smiled like he'd won a contest. She got in the passenger seat, kissed him before the door even shut. I didn't take photos. Not yet. I just watched them drive away. When she got home that night, she tried to feed me a story about having to stop by her sister's house for some dog medicine. Her sister lives in Wisconsin. We live in Nevada. That was the moment I stopped warning her. That was the moment I started planning. Not revenge. I'm not that guy, but the kind of quiet, devastating truth that you can't unsee. The kind that doesn't need shouting to be heard. Because if she wanted to live a lie, I was going to make sure it was the only thing left standing around her. The morning after I saw Laureen kiss that man, I sat in my car for an hour before work, engine running, radio off, hands numb from gripping the steering wheel. I wasn't even thinking. I was disassociating, I guess somewhere between disbelief and some pathetic form of hope that maybe I misunderstood what I saw, that maybe I was the one inventing stories because I couldn't accept that the woman I'd built a life with had thrown it all away for some dude in flannel who texts about cinnamon. But then the universe or karma handed me a shove. At the gas station near my work, I ran into a woman named Nain. She used to work part-time at Laureen's office years ago, something temp-related. We'd only talked a few times in passing, but she recognized me right away. "Hey," she said, glancing around like she was debating something. "Are you still with Laureen?" The question hit harder than it should have. I just nodded and said, "Yeah, why?" She hesitated, then leaned in slightly and whispered, "You didn't hear that from me, but she's been driving off with some guy at lunch, like, regularly. Same car, silver Honda. I thought you guys split." My jaw actually clenched. I thanked her, told her nothing was wrong. I lied badly. I didn't know Nain had seen it, too. That the affair wasn't just inside my head. That others had witnessed it and assumed the silence meant permission. That was worse than betrayal. It was humiliation. That night, I went home and decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to someone for help. No, not a PI, not a lawyer. I emailed her cousin, Greg. He and I were never close, but we got along at barbecues and birthdays. He was level-headed, quiet like me. He worked in IT and was always helping her fix Wi-Fi issues. I figured if she was reckless with her phone, maybe she'd been reckless with other devices, too. I asked him if he could check something discreetly, a backup from Laureen's old iPad that still synced to iCloud. I told him I thought she was hiding something and I needed the truth for my own sanity. He didn't answer for 2 days. Then he sent me one word, call. I stepped out into the backyard and called him immediately. He sounded hesitant, like he'd seen something he didn't want to be involved in. But he told me he pulled old data from the iPad, stuff she probably forgot still synced to cloud storage. There were messages, a lot of them, between her and someone saved only as M. I asked if it was Bryce. No. Colin? No. I went through every male name I could remember from her office or family. No one matched. Then Greg said something I'll never forget. The weird thing is, M isn't just one person. It's 3 numbers saved as one contact. She used different burner apps. He forwarded the messages. They weren't sexual. That's the worst part. They were emotional, confessional. She talked about me like I was her jailer. She said she felt trapped with a man who fixates on vending coils and guilt trips me with dinner. She called me a lifelong echo. Said she wanted someone who made her feel like a flame, not a job. I sat down on the grass in the dark, reading every line until my vision blurred. And the most recent message, it read, "He's still clueless. I think he wants to be. If he ever really stood up to me, I'd probably fold, but he won't. He's not that guy." That's when I realized something. She didn't just betray me. She relied on me being weak. She counted on me doing nothing, folding laundry, cooking her low-carb meals, and going back to bed with my tail between my legs. And for a long time, she was right. But I'd warned her twice, calmly, without threats, without rage. I gave her 2 chances to face me with truth. Now I was done speaking. I was ready to show her, not with violence, not with screaming, but with a decision that would rip the mask off her fantasy and let her see, really see, the consequences of burning the bridge while she was still standing on it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my garage with the door closed, engine off, just listening to the wind rattle against the aluminum frame. My mind wouldn't stop running, not with rage, but something worse, disbelief. Like my whole reality had been edited without my consent. Like I was watching reruns of a life I thought I understood, only to realize I'd never read the script. And in the middle of that spiral, one thought settled in. If she was never going to give me honesty, I was going to take it anyway. The next day, I called in sick. I texted Laureen around 11 a.m. and told her the power went out at the house and I was going to be working from the library. I needed her to think I was away. Not suspicious, not lingering, just gone. Then I waited. Around 12:40 p.m., she pulled into the driveway, not in her car. The same silver Honda Accord. I was watching from the attic vent. I had a camera set up on the front porch light fixture. Nothing fancy, just a discreet motion cam I'd ordered a few days earlier. I had it rigged to start recording the second it detected activity. She got out giggling, literally giggling. Her blouse was half tucked, half loose. She walked around to the passenger side, opened the door, and out stepped M. Except he wasn't mysterious anymore. He was our neighbor's nephew. Marcus, 29, used to mow lawns around the neighborhood when he was saving for college. Played varsity baseball, too handsome for his own good. He'd shown up to a block party a few months back, and I remembered how Laureen complimented his haircut when she thought I wasn't listening. They kissed, not passionately, confidently, like this was routine, like this was the plan. She let him inside my house, our house. The moment the door closed, I started my timer. Exactly 24 minutes later, I rang the doorbell from my phone. She'd synced our Ring app to her phone ages ago. I knew she'd see the alert, and I knew it would scare her because I was supposed to be at the library. Sure enough, 5 seconds later, I saw movement. She opened the door half-dressed, her hair disheveled, her eyes wide. "Oh, I thought you were," she started. "I forgot my charger," I said, walking past her into the foyer like it was just any day. Needed it before the laptop dies. And there he was, Marcus, standing at the foot of the stairs, shirtless, frozen like a deer in headlights. I walked right past him, didn't say a word. Laureen tried to speak, tried to spin it, but I held up a hand. "I warned you, Laureen," I said quietly. Twice. She looked like she was about to say something, but then she stopped. Maybe she remembered the night I told her some things. Once broken, can't be fixed. I unplugged the charger, nodded to both of them, and said something so casual it shook her more than yelling ever could. "I'll be staying somewhere else for a few days. You two enjoy the air conditioning I pay for." Then I walked out the door. No threats, no accusations, just the weight of finality. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream into a pillow. I went to a cheap motel off Route 17, laid down on the uncomfortable bed, and opened the files Greg had sent me. There were over 200 text screenshots, calendar entries, notes she'd written to herself, even an unsent draft of an email she planned to send to her mom explaining that I had drifted emotionally and left her no choice. I'd never cheated, never even looked at another woman. I brought her tea when she had cramps. I drove 45 minutes out of my way once to get her favorite pie from a bakery that only makes it on Thursdays. I kept a drawer of her protein bars in my car in case she forgot breakfast. And now I was the villain in the story she planned to tell. That's when I realized she didn't just betray me physically. She'd rewritten our entire history in her head, sanitized it, edited out all the parts where I showed up, cared, tried. Also, she could feel like the good guy in her own disaster movie. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do. No revenge, no drama, just truth. Cold, sharp, and undeniable. The kind of truth that makes people stop smiling. I didn't go to work the next day or the day after that. I didn't even call in. Instead, I spent hours at the public library combing through old tax records, gathering receipts, printing screenshots, organizing photos, and building what I can only describe as a digital autopsy of my own marriage. I created folders, digital and physical. One for messages, one for photos, one for financial records I found under her name that I never authorized. Did you know she opened a secret credit card? Neither did I. Apparently, it had been open for 8 months, used exclusively for restaurants, ride shares, and hotel charges, almost all during work hours or weekend family obligations I'd never been invited to. And then came the most disturbing discovery of all. She'd been looking at apartments, solo leases, no cosigner, invoices for viewings, and application fees sent to her personal email, the one she told me she rarely used. The same email tied to a PayPal account I didn't know existed. I stared at the lease document she never signed. The address was in a trendy part of town, just above a yoga studio and a vegan cafe. It screamed freedom. It screamed escape. And then it hit me. She was planning to leave me, not confront me, not divorce me outright, just drift away quietly, make it look like a slow emotional breakdown, and vanish with the narrative that I'd stopped caring. She had been building her exit story for months. I guess I was never supposed to catch up to it. So I sent her a text that evening. Simple, cold. Let's talk tomorrow noon in person. She replied an hour later. Okay. Are you okay? No. I love you. No. I'm sorry. Just mild concern from a woman who knew her house of cards was swaying but still thought she had time to fix the furniture. The next day, I met her at the house. She was waiting at the kitchen island, arms folded, coffee in hand, looking like someone who wanted to play both victim and diplomat. I didn't sit down. I didn't touch her. I simply handed her the stack of papers I prepared. Phone logs, emails, photographs, timeline breakdowns, her fake contacts, proof of the secret card, and finally, the photo of her in the silver Honda kissing Marcus in front of my home. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she placed her coffee down carefully and asked, "So, what do you want to do?" Couldn't believe it. No apology, no tears, just damage control. "You mean besides walk out and never speak to you again?" I asked. She shrugged. "I mean, if that's what you feel like you need to do, I get it," she said softly, like we were discussing plans for separate vacations. But then she made her real mistake. She leaned forward, tapped the documents with her polished finger, and said, "You've obviously been preparing this for a while. Don't act like you're some innocent puppy I kicked on the porch." That's when I stopped feeling sorry for her. All this time, I thought she was a woman who got caught in something impulsive, who fell into something stupid. But no, this wasn't carelessness. This was strategy, calculated, cold, and worse. She saw herself as the one betrayed because I found out. So I gave her the answer she wasn't expecting. "I'm not staying. I'm not forgiving you, but I'm also not shouting. I'm not slashing tires. I'm not making threats. You're not that important anymore." That hit her hard, harder than if I'd screamed. Because in her head, she was still the sun in my orbit. The woman I'd move mountains for, cry over, beg to take me back. But I wasn't that man anymore. Not because I stopped loving her, but because I couldn't love someone who would smile in my face while writing my obituary behind my back. She asked me where I was going. I said, Where I should have gone the first time you lied about Sacramento. Then I picked up the folder of copies I made, the one she didn't see, and walked out the door. I left her there alone, surrounded by her lies. No one to blame but the man who finally stopped warning her. I spent the next 4 nights on a friend's pull-out couch one town over. Owen, a guy I hadn't talked to much since college, worked night shifts and left me alone most of the time, which was honestly perfect. I didn't want anyone to see me. I didn't want to answer texts. I didn't even want to look at my reflection. Everything I believed in had rotted under my feet. And even though I left, I still felt like I was the one who'd been abandoned. But life doesn't stop moving just because you're gutted. And neither do rumors. It started as a subtle ripple. My sister called first. She'd seen a post from someone in the neighborhood Facebook group. Someone asking if everything was okay between me and Laureen because they'd seen a younger man leaving the house at weird hours and thought it looked like she was maybe moving on, kind of fast. Then came the text from Laureen's aunt, Diane. A single line. Heard something strange about Marcus and Laureen. Should we talk? It didn't take long for the whispering to get louder. Because when you live in a neighborhood where everyone pretends to care about curb appeal but secretly lives for gossip, things move fast. And the best part? I didn't say a word to anyone. Not one post, not one explanation. I just let it bleed. Then came the Saturday barbecue, a neighborhood event hosted annually by the Pearsons down the street. The kind where everyone shows up with Tupperware salads and plastic forks and pretends their marriages are all spotless. Laureen showed up alone. That much I knew because Owen's sister was there and texted me within minutes. She's here without you. People are asking. I almost ignored it. But then she sent a second message. Marcus just showed up too. And it's awkward. My hands shook. Not from jealousy, not even from rage, from the absolute audacity of it. Laureen didn't just blow up our life. She was now trying to normalize it. To walk back into the same circles like she hadn't made a private disaster public. Like the man she cheated with could just slide into the lawn chair I used to sit in, eat potato salad, and nod along with small talk like he belonged. That was when I knew the universe had shifted because people weren't buying it. Owen's sister overheard one of the Pearson girls whisper to her husband, "She moved on fast, didn't she?" Another neighbor apparently asked where I was. And when Laureen smiled and said we were working through some things, he replied, "Looks like you're already done working." Then I got the email from Laureen's boss. Not to accuse me, not even to gossip. Just a heads up. Apparently, she'd used a company credit card to pay for one of the hotel stays listed on her fake off-site calendar. Corporate flagged it. Now HR was involved. Her work life, the one thing she always guarded, was cracking. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I just felt hollow. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't vindication. It was just the slow collapse of a house she built on wet sand. She tried calling me that night 4 times. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "Can we talk? I think people are misunderstanding things. It's getting out of hand." Misunderstanding things. As if the problem wasn't what she did, but how people saw it. I stared at the message for a long time. And then I did something I hadn't done since the whole mess began. I went back to the house. She wasn't home. Probably still at Marcus or out somewhere explaining misunderstood choices. So, I let myself in quietly, slowly. Everything looked exactly the same, except it didn't. There were 2 coffee mugs on the counter, both rinsed, but not washed. A hoodie on the couch that didn't belong to me. Cologne in the bathroom I'd never worn. And in the bedroom, the drawer where she used to keep our old anniversary cards was completely empty. But my side, my drawer, still had the anniversary gifts I'd given her. The movie ticket stub she used to say she treasured, a photo strip of us from a road trip in 17. She'd removed herself from our life like someone editing their name out of a diary. I didn't take anything with me except the last photo from that drawer, the one where she's sitting on my shoulders laughing, arms out like wings. She looked so happy. I held it for a minute. Then I left it face down on the kitchen table because the next time we'd speak, it wasn't going to be about saving anything. It was going to be about ending it. 3 days passed after I left that photo face down on the kitchen table. She didn't call again, didn't text. I think she understood. Or maybe she assumed I was still hurting and would eventually circle back like I always did. Quiet, predictable, and willing to take the blame just to keep the peace. She didn't know me anymore, and maybe she never really did. The turning point came on a Wednesday. It was raining, one of those slow, steady downpours that makes the whole world feel like it's whispering. I was in Owen's apartment, sitting on the windowsill with a lukewarm cup of tea, when I got a knock at the door. It wasn't Laureen. It was her mother, Pamela. She lived 3 states away and hadn't visited in over a year. I didn't even know she was in town. She looked tired, older than I remembered, or maybe I was just seeing clearly for the first time in weeks. "May I come in?" she asked, clutching her coat like armor. I let her in. She didn't beat around the bush. She sat down, looked me in the eyes and said, "I had no idea. None." Turns out Laureen had told her family that we were growing apart, that we were on a break, and that she was trying to find happiness after a long emotional drought. She didn't mention Marcus, didn't mention the lies, the burner phones, the gaslighting, the disappearing funds. Just a soft, curated version of events that made her look brave for finally choosing herself. I handed her mother the folder. Not the full version, just the light one. Enough to explain why I was gone, why I disconnected our joint accounts, why I had already spoken to a lawyer. Pamela read in silence. When she finished, she folded the last page and said something I never expected to hear from a mother. "She's been doing this since college, hiding truths under polished versions. I hoped she'd outgrow it." I asked her why she was here. She sighed as if the truth was something heavy she'd been carrying alone. "Because Laureen told me you were trying to ruin her, and I needed to see for myself if that was true." I let that hang in the air for a second before saying, "I'm not ruining her. She did that all on her own." Pamela nodded. "I see that now." She left not long after, but before she walked out, she stopped at the door and said, "You didn't deserve this. I just hope you heal before you let it harden you." I didn't know what to say. I still don't. Later that night, the confrontation finally happened. I was standing outside the house, our house, with the signed separation papers in a folder, waiting by the front steps. I texted Laureen earlier that I was coming by and needed her signature to finalize our split. She showed up 20 minutes late, wearing gym clothes like she'd just come from Pilates, barely winded, earbuds still hanging around her neck. She walked up, saw the folder, and said, "So, you're really doing this?" I nodded. "We're already living it. I'm just making it official." She didn't cry. She didn't beg. But she looked rattled, like this wasn't going the way she'd rehearsed in her head. Maybe she thought I'd still be bitter and broken, clinging to the wreckage like a sad little man waiting for her to throw him a rope. But I wasn't broken anymore. Just done. She opened the folder, glanced at the papers, and muttered, "You already had a lawyer." "2, actually," I said. "Wanted a second opinion." Then I handed her a pen. She held it for a second, then looked up at me with this strange, pitying expression, as if she was the one being abandoned. "You think this makes you strong?" she asked. I smiled, not because it did, but because I realized she still didn't understand. "No," I said. "It makes me free." She signed. I took the papers, placed them back in the folder, and started walking to my car. But before I opened the door, she called out softly, "So that's it?" I turned. "No, that's just the end of your version." Then I got in and drove off. Not fast, not triumphant, just finished. Back at Owen's, I sat with the papers in front of me. Everything was in motion now. The accounts, the name removals, the transfer of utilities, a quiet dismantling of a life I once built with someone who turned out to be a stranger in familiar skin. And even though I'd lost something massive, a marriage, a home, a belief, I felt something returning. Not pride, not vengeance, but clarity. Because when you strip away the lies, the excuses, and the blame games, what's left is the truth you warned them about. And when they ignore that warning, they face exactly what they deserve. It's been 6 months since she signed the papers. I didn't go looking for love. I didn't hit the gym, reinvent myself, or post cryptic quotes online about healing. I just existed one day at a time, one box at a time. I moved into a small 2-bedroom place above a hardware store near the edge of town. Cheap rent, smells like sawdust, and the shower whistles if you turn it too far left. But it's mine. First, it was quiet. Too quiet. I'd wake up expecting to hear Laureen's alarm or the sound of her makeup drawer slamming shut. But all I heard was the hum of the fridge and the low creak of the ceiling fan. And slowly, that quiet stopped being sad. It became peace. I started walking every morning. Nothing ambitious, just a loop around the block with bad coffee and a podcast. I got back into sketching, bought a used easel off Craigslist, and started drawing the people I saw in the cafe down the street. There's this older guy who plays chess by himself every afternoon. I've drawn him 7 times. He has no idea. I even fixed a vending machine at the local community center for free. The staff there thanked me like I just rebuilt the Hoover Dam. They asked if I wanted to come back once a week, so I do. It's become a little thing I look forward to. And then one Tuesday I met someone, not in the way you'd expect. Her name's Elise. She works in the bookstore next to the cafe. She complimented my sketchpad, said she recognized the man I'd been drawing and that he used to be a chess champion in the 80s. We started talking about books, then art, then vending machines of all things. She laughed when I told her that story, not out of pity, not like Laureen used to, like I was a side character in my own life. No, Elise listened like I mattered. We've had coffee 4 times now. No pressure, no expectations, just 2 people sharing stories and sips of something warm. She doesn't know the whole story yet. I'm not ready to open that box, but she knows I've been through something hard, and she doesn't ask me to pretend I haven't. And I guess that's the whole point. See, I thought losing Laureen would break me. For a while, it did. But sometimes you have to lose what looked like love to remember what real love might actually feel like. I gave Laureen warnings. I gave her chances. But in the end, what she ignored was never my anger. It was my worth. And now I live in a place where I don't walk on eggshells, where I can burn toast and curse at vending coils and fall asleep with a sketch pad on my chest and not feel like I'm disappointing someone just by being who I am. She thought I'd stay broken, but all she did was set me free. And I'm not just surviving now.